How do you tell if a police stop is racist? Good detective work, of course, is absolutely crucial. I was thinking of all those kind of fictional characters, the crime writers from Sherlock Holmes to Kojak, Poirot to Cagney and Lacey. Now we've gone from Agatha Christie to Linford Christie. That quickly. Now one of our finest athletes says the police are racist, but when it comes to matters on the issue of crime, I think you might well suggest that Linford Christie is probably about as useful as a wooden frying pan. I don't think this man is going anywhere in terms of his career in Scotland Yard. He's accused the Met Police of institutional racism. This is after two of the athletes that he trains were stopped and handcuffed. You'll be familiar with the story. We played a little bit of the audio there at the very beginning. It was in West London. The Olympic champion is demanding an explanation as to why British athlete Bianca Williams and her Portuguese partner Ricardo dos Santos were stopped for a search. Now, it's difficult to describe the full details of the kind of journey they made, but essentially Bianca and her partner Rick were in a car, and a van, it turns out to be a police van, gives way to them essentially, and they do a right turn, and they soon realise the police van is following them, and then they do a left turn and a right turn, then another left and a right and a left and a right, and it goes on a little bit, and it looks kind of rat runny stuff. And then eventually the police stop them. They ask them to stop, but they don't stop. The term sped off springs to mind, but I'm not much fussed whether they sped off or just pootled off. The fact is they were off when asked to stop, and they went about a minute up the road and pulled over to apparently where they live. So that's the context of how this stop happened. The police spot the car, follow it for a little bit. The car appears to be doing that thing that if you've ever watched Traffic Cops or Road Wars, what's the one on Channel 5 called, Ricky? Something about the protectors, isn't it? That thing. Anyway, all that stuff. This is classic bread and butter of the police interceptors, that's the one. Classic bread and butter of the girls and boys in blue. They see a car, they're following the car does a left, it does a moody right, it does an iffy left again, and it carries on like this for a little bit, and you think, well, if I was driving the police van, I would also pull the car over. So they eventually pulled it over, but it scuttled off for a bit and then pulled over, and of course the occupants were asked to leave the car for the purpose of a search. And it kicked off a little bit. Bianca, the athlete, was not leaving the car. She also had a little boy in the car, so she was distressed about that, which I get, by the way. Nonetheless, she was asked to leave the car. The police officer, female police officer, was very decent and measured in saying, look, we can sort this out, don't worry, leave the car. You're being detained for a purpose of a search, leave the car. It all looked to me like pretty standard stuff, but they got very, very upset about this. And what has happened now is that they're demanding some kind of apology, or they're going to take some kind of action against the police. Linford Christie is not happy about this. The world has kind of ended as we all know it, because this is seen as unequivocally a racist stop. This was profiling, apparently. Now, there's a couple of points to throw in here, and we'll take your calls along the way. 0344 499 1000. Here's what I don't get. So, firstly, this is a 27-year-old bloke driving a £60,000 car in Maida Vale. Now, I've never been on a police training course, but if I was running one, I might say that should perhaps, not exclusively, but that may well spark your interest. If you're out in your patrol car and you see 60k's worth of Mercedes being driven by a bloke in his 20s, it's possible it's his. Is it probable, on balance, Maida Vale? I actually think Maida Vale was posh, by the way. Sounds posh, Maida Vale, doesn't it? I'm sure I saw a film, like an old film, where they pick up the phone and go, hello, Maida Vale 261, one of those. And from then on, I thought it was like Chelsea or something. And then I went there because a mate used to live there. It was a right tip, frankly. I mean, I'm sure it's slightly better in some places. But nonetheless, it's not as, it's not what some people think. So there's the police. They spot the car. And there's two people in the car, and they follow it. And so it's a guy in his 20s who's driving a £60,000 car. Now, Bianca, the passenger, his partner, has driven this car regularly and never been stopped in the car. She has never been stopped. One of the most interesting quotes that I took from this as well is that Rick, the driver, said that he used to drive a Nissan Juke and was never stopped. Our first car was a Nissan Juke. We were never stopped, but as soon as we went German, the game changed. Classic blunder, isn't it? Go German, expect the blue lights. So we now, and this is just part of this story, okay? So was he stopped because he's a guy in his 20s in a £60,000 car? She'd never been stopped. She's a black female. She's never been stopped. He's a black male. He has been stopped. When he drives the car, he gets stopped quite a lot. She doesn't. They're both black. Now she's thinking, right, is this racial profiling? Well, they're clearly not just after anyone who's black, otherwise she'd be stopped. Is it about young men? I think it's probably about young men. That area, okay, three biggest crimes in that area, all right? Here we go. Number 1, antisocial behaviour. Number 2, violence. Number 3, drugs. Okay, that's the 3 in Maida Vale. I checked it out in that neighbourhood, in that part of the borough. They are the crimes that are most likely committed. So were the police, so you've got 6 cops or something in the back of a van following this £60,000 Mercedes round the back streets of a neighbourhood in Maida Vale. Now, this would be because we live in a culture now where, well, we've seen what's happened in the last 3 weeks. Senior police officers taking the knee, apologising for things that they've never done or thought, and neither did their ancestors. There's currently an avalanche of headlines around racism and Black Lives Matter. Every police station, every superintendent, inspector lecturing and dictating on a daily basis to their troops. Be careful when you go out there. Be sensitive. Show understanding of situations. Hundreds of cops running away from raves right now. And we live in a world where everybody films everything. You're always on film. In fact, even the cops themselves were wearing body cameras. So I would put it to you, ladies and gentlemen of the radio jury, that it would be the north end of extraordinary if a bunch of cops, 6 of them, all happened to suffer from some unconscious bias or whatever, in the wake and the backdrop of everything we've just been through, that they would suddenly, for no reason, go, there's a black guy, let's stop him. I would suggest that did not happen. And when you look at the demeanour and the behaviour of the cops on the footage that we've seen, this was filmed from the car by Bianca, as I understand it. She was filming herself at first. When you look at that, you think, well, the police stopping somebody, it doesn't look good. It's kind of not meant to look good in a curious way. And that's where another thing that I think has kind of slightly gone by the wayside of late, where we sort of have groups of people who kind of don't really know what the police are. There was an incident I saw. There was a guy on a train station somewhere. I think it was in Essex or something. And the police had detained him, young black kid. They detained the guy. I think he was without a ticket or something like that. And as they're talking to him, he tries to leg it, and he gets about 6 feet away. And they're straight onto him. They pounce on him, cuff him, stand him back up, and start again. That was it. And there was a girl filming this, and she was commentating as she was filming it. She kept saying things like, "Oh my days, oh my day, oh my days. Man, what are they doing?" She was commentating on this as if they had just chopped his head off. At the hysteria surrounding it, she was commentating on it as if the cops were just members of the public who jumped on her mate and handcuffed him and taken him away. And I thought, that's the problem, isn't it? That is absolutely central to the problem I think we're in here. She couldn't see the point of the police. She didn't get who the police were. I don't know whether she thought they're just a group of people that show up round your house when there's been a burglary. Had she never watched a cop programme? The stop that the Met Police did on this couple looked like any other stop I've seen on any of those police programmes, whether the person driving the car is black or white. There didn't look to be anything particularly remarkable about this. It looked pretty standard stuff to me. We'll open up the lines on this now. 0344 499 1000. How would you tell if that... And if you haven't seen it, go online and you'll find it very easily. I'll stick it on my Twitter feed as well, at Ian Collins UK. Follow me there and we'll put it up. We played the audio there. Can we just hear that audio again, Amy? This is just a little part of the police on Saturday afternoon in Maida Vale, and they're stopping Bianca Williams, the British athlete, and the Portuguese athlete Ricardo dos Santos.
My son is in the car. I don't want you to look after him. My son is in the car. No. Yeah, that was me.
No one's going to be hurt. Just get out of the car. You're going to be detained for a search, okay? And just picture one place. You've made off with police.
Just get out the car, you're going to be detained for a search. It's very nice. Can you imagine some countries where that would happen? Check out what happens with the Polish police or the American police. They're not as polite as that. Everything's going to be fine. If you get out the car, just step out the car. Thank you. And the easiest thing to do, if the police say get out the car, here's the advice. Get out the car. That's just probably the best thing to do. 0344 499 1000.